Hello and welcome to this edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Marty Radovanic, WTAJ. Today is a conversation I've been looking forward to because he's nearly as old as I am, and he's been in our business almost as long as I have. And I didn't think there were people still alive that met that criteria. So let's say hello to Neil Rudel of the Altoona Mirror, sort of. Let's explain that sort of, Neil. You're not a full time employee of the Mirror anymore, but you're actively involved in the newspaper. You know a lot about the newspaper business, which is one of the things we're going to talk about. Introduce yourself. Let the community know. They see your byline all the time, they don't see your face.
Well, thank you, Marty. It's nice to be with you. Yeah, I'm still part of the Mirror family. I retired from being the managing editor a year ago. I say I'm semi-retired. I still cover Penn State football. I'm still involved with the community. I'm in Rotary. I help organize the Mirror Athlete of the Year banquet, our 20 under 40, things like that. Our Mirror All-Star game. So I still am in and out of the Mirror pretty often, stay connected to the staff, but I don't have to do the day-to-day management anymore. And, I'm enjoying it. I
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity to stay connected to the Mirror and still wake up and have something to do, but not too much.
Yeah, and people will say, because I hear it all the time in my circumstance, I'm 73. You just turned 69. Happy birthday. And people will say, well, why are you still working? And in my case, as my daughter said to me when we were kicking this around, she said, Dad, it's what you've done all your life. Why wouldn't you continue to do it if you have an opportunity? Plus, I didn't like sitting around doing nothing. And we were just having this conversation. I think there's a great need out there, and this is going to sound like it's self promotion, but there's a great need out there for people our age with our experience to not be put on a pile as retired, but to do things. And I know you still want to be involved, right? I mean, that's what drives you.
Yeah, I appreciate the Mirror making me continue to feel welcome. And who made up the saying, "If you have a job you love, you'd never really work a day in your life." And
Exactly.
I've been really fortunate that way. I've loved the job, the newspaper, the community. So I'm glad to still be part of it.
The newspaper business, though, has certainly changed since you started in the business, hasn't it?
Well, of course, we were an afternoon paper at that point.
Okay.
We could cover the city council meetings, which were then in the morning, probably in part because the paper came out in the afternoon.
Hmm.
And as long as the reporters would get their stories in by 11:30 or 12, we printed at 12:45. So a lot of things have changed. We moved into a morning paper, which was a great idea, but it changed the dynamic of all
Sure.
the people working at night. We went to Saturday morning, then a Sunday. Now we're a combined weekend edition, and we missed the Sunday paper. The staff did. We all did. The community does, but we adjusted to that, and we've made many adjustments over the years, and now it's the digital age. So we like to think we've been able to roll with the punches, but we know it's a changing world.
Yeah, I was looking at some statistics about the number of papers that have closed over the last 10 years. It's been growing in the final quarter of that 10. And the future is not very bright, not only for local newspapers, but for local news organizations, television news organizations. I mean, we're doing this program as part of our streaming service. Um, I don't even know if you go back maybe 4 or 5 years, you would even think that some point we're going to do this. It might have been something that, oh yeah, there are some people around the industry that are trying this, but it'll never come to this. I mean, reading the newspaper, and believe me, I live in the Johnstown area, and when the Tribune Democrat did away with their Sunday paper, I was really angry because that was a tradition, right? And there's so much with your part of the business. You get up in the morning, you would grab your paper, or in the afternoon, or whatever time you published, and your cup of coffee or whatever, and you'd catch up with the world. Now I understand it's a lot easier today to take your phone out of your pocket and look at it, or be on your laptop, or be on your tablet and get all the information. But that was an important, vital time in America to be able to get that local connection. And I want to ask you about how important you think local, and I mean uber local. Uber used to be a word you could describe to go into that. Now it's a car service, but very, very local. That was important. And we don't have that. We're losing that.
Right. Now, here in our market, we're an older community. So we've been able to sustain a little longer than the bigger cities. And one of the reasons, what drives the local newspaper? Obits. It's the first thing that most people of the newspaper demographic.
I look every day to see if mine's in there.
Exactly. You'd be on page one,
Oh,
Marty,
you think?
plus an obit.
Would I be above the fold though? I don't know. Okay.
That depends. That's probably another show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's pass on that. I don't want to talk about.
But no, I mean, it's an institution of getting people's days started with the coffee, the newspaper, and older people, they're big on routine.
Right.
So
right.
And now, to be honest, there's a number of people, because it's more difficult to attract carriers, that it's coming in the mail. And that's growing more and more. Now you get, professional service, reliable service. You don't
Right.
get calls that, the paper, we've had some great carriers over the years, but you get wind and rain and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it might be wet. So those adjustments have been made, but it's been very much a function of society for how many decades? We just celebrated our 150 years
Really?
last year.
And you were one of the original copy editors.
1874, Marty. Yeah, I
Well,
was watching you.
I was see. I knew you were going there. That's why I wanted to take the shot at you before you hit me with it. Let's take an example of something that it's now certainly a national story. It's probably international. Luigi Mangione, who might be the most famous accused murderer, at least in modern American history. He's becoming a star, but he was arrested. And I remember the morning it happened, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? He was arrested at a McDonald's on Plank Road in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Those kinds of stories don't drop into our laps very often. And yet, that part of the Mangione story is as important as anything else that's happened, because that's when the most notorious wanted man in America, who was on the run, was captured by Altoona police, eating, what was he eating? I don't even remember now. It was some kind of hash browns. Yeah, he was eating hash browns in a McDonald's. But that's a connection, right? I'm sure you guys did I know you did extensive coverage on that. That's not something, I mean, you can tell it from a flare of it happened in Altoona.
Yeah, and and right before Christmas too.
Yeah.
So, as an editor or just a staff writer of a small town media, when that happens, when a national story lands in your lap,
right,
and all the national networks are calling, or they're now in Altoona, you just hope that you can put your best foot forward,
right?
Because you're being watched by fellow journalists,
Mm-hmm.
At a high level, and that's happened a couple times. There was a Geeseytown tragedy,
right,
about probably 8 or 9 years ago, right in front of Christmas, with the small staff. You guys were dealing with the same
holidays.
challenge.
We don't have people, right?
Yeah, so you just hope that you can do. And I was proud of our staff, and I was not managing the staff at that point. It was after my retirement, but my successor, Holly Claycomb, just had everybody. It's all hands on deck at that point.
Yep.
So yeah, it's but the timing of that, and any time it happens right in front of like a holiday, and you have a short staff to start with,
or even listen, when Flight 93 went down, one of the reporters at WTAJ was the first reporter to look into the hole. I mean, that's as close as he got, because it was still developing. The emergency management people, they didn't really know what they were dealing with. I mean, they had a pretty good idea, but it wasn't, it was shortly thereafter where obviously it was cordoned off and you couldn't get. But I remember when he called back to the newsroom to tell us, and I said, John, you did what? He said, I said, could you see anything? He goes, no, it was a lot of smoke and you could smell engine fuel, but you couldn't really tell what was going on. But the crash of United Flight 93 and the arrest of Luigi Mangione with that local flair, I mean, we looked at it, and I'm sure you guys did the same thing. We looked at what its impact was on Shanksville, the closest community to the crash site, and the people who live there and every day, and they do this and they do that. And the national guys and gals, and this is no knock, that's not their part of the story. We can't, it seems to me that we run the risk now with what's happening in media of losing that. And I don't see how that's good for anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially in the early stages of something like that. Because a lot of the national media, and we saw this with the Sandusky scandal.
Yep.
A lot of the national media relies on the people that are local, at least to carry them through for the first couple days while they decide, hey, how many people are we gonna send there?
Yep.
So yeah, that's really a good point. We could still localize it with institutional knowledge.
Yes.
Better than the person that arrives, from New York.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And there's not, and again, I'm not knocking the New York people because there isn't a perspective of a much bigger audience. We're looking for the ties to our community. And the reason I want to talk to you about that is because I see, if we lose more newspapers, if more, listen, they're in our business, in the TV business, they're going to hubs. And a hub is basically where one television station, where it used to be one television station per market. Now, one television station will report the news for 3 different markets.
Right.
It won't be local anymore, or they'll have one reporter who will throw in an occasional local story. And it's saving the companies that are doing it a lot of money. And I understand money is the root of all evil. I mean, if you're not making money, you're not going to stay in business. But I'm afraid we're going to lose that connection. And that connection is so important. I have grandchildren that run in age from 15 to 21. I don't think they know what a newspaper is because they don't need to read it, at least holding it in their hands. They get everything from TikTok. They don't even get it from major news sources. They're getting it on socials. And that's fine. I mean, that's helping them. They're still getting an idea of the things that are important enough, but they're losing that ability to learn what it means to them in the towns and, the areas where they live. And that bothers me. I would think it would bother you, but
absolutely. Just from just an aside on we still compile a high school track honor roll.
Think about that.
Of the top performers in each, in each event, and it's meticulous. But that's one of the things you talk about being hyper local.
Mm-hmm.
And I handed it to a great nephew and showed him that his cousin was one of the top performers.
Right.
He really never handled a newspaper, but he thought it was cool.
Right.
That and he was going to show his family, his younger family. So yeah, but so important to be able to capture, these communities and these school boards and local government and how they work, what they do, and you kind of have to have somebody willing not only to sit there but to understand what's going on in trying to present that information to the public.
Yeah, there's no question. Listen, in my career, I've been to way more school board and council meetings than I care to remember because they weren't the most exciting things in the world. And in my business, where visuals were everything, it was really hard to tell a good story when you're just watching people sit around talking. But I understood how important it was for the people in that community. If you lived 50 miles away, you wouldn't care about they're going to take my yard as part of this new highway. And
Right.
what's going on in Center County? It's been going on in Center County since the expansion of the highway, and all that. And they don't understand that that's important to them, and they're going to lose that if the Mirror and other local papers and if local television stations have to change our focus to make money, because that's what we're in business for. We are a company that exists to make profits. If that goes away, life's going to change dramatically.
Yeah, and it already has to a degree. You don't get at times quite the feedback on certain stories that you got 20 years ago, and
Right.
not as many people are reading. But you got to find a way to connect to those readers, whether it's you have to speak their language.
Yep.
Some of it is on Twitter and social media and teasing and podcasting. So we've tried to do that as well as we can. But hey, we all got into this business. Maybe the older folks as print-centric people.
Yep.
It's hard to make round holes and square pegs.
Listen, what part of the problem that I've always had in our side of the business is when young people come to us, they generally come from a college program that's teaching them print. And I don't want them to write print when they're,
Right.
because we're different. We're a different style. I would tell people you're writing for the ear, so you got to get me quick. There's got to be something there that drags me in to listen to what you're saying. I can read Neil Rudel's column 6 times. If I didn't quite understand what he was saying, I can go back and read it. Well, on TV, you don't have that option. You got to get them and grab them. And so we both we kind of work together. We're competitive. Some of my best friends work at the Johnstown Tribune Democrat. Well, they used to. They've all either retired or they're no longer with us. But, that was a thing. I mean, we were competitive, but we weren't enemies. We both did.
Right.
We'd complain about the same story. We'd be on it. Oh my God, how am I going to make this that anybody's going to want to pay attention to it? The other thing that bothers me, and I want your take on this, and I'm trying not to make this. I'm not blaming the current occupant of the White House, but when he threatens. He just the other day he said he's going to take the licenses of NBC and ABC and CBS, and he threatens newspapers. He's going to shut them down because he doesn't like. And he's not alone in that, But that you never heard that before because we had to do our job. We were a free and fair press. First Amendment meant a lot. I'm not sure it means what it used to mean. Is that a threat to us? Do you think, or? And companies are capitulating. They are. You can see it. And Stephen Colbert was not canceled because of all the money he was losing.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah. I mean, disconcerting to people in the industry to be referred to as fake news.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So, but I think, again, in our industry, though, we can't afford to be biased. Even when there's things that we don't like about certain positions.
Yeah.
So... he got elected again, so maybe that tempered.
But you know what? I wonder what that does to young people who want to come into our business because regardless of how we survive, the need for information is never going to go away. Television is moving into what this is. This is a streaming service. Newspapers have made the move before we did to online because you had to do what your readership and your advertisers wanted you to do. I can remember the general manager of Channel 6 saying our online presence made up for the money we lost when the networks used to pay local stations to carry their broadcast material. And they paid us a lot. I mean, it was a nice side of the business. Well, that gradually has gone away. But online advertising helped make up for that. So you go where the audience is, you go where the money is. That's what you have to do. But young people coming in now, I mean, first of all, you're not coming out of college and getting hired by the old grade lady. You're not going to the New York Times or out of school. I don't care where you went, right? And you may never get there because they look for people who have all this experience. Well, where are you going to get the experience if nothing exists anymore the way it, I'm worried about the future of our industry.
For sure. I think you make so many good points. One of the things that we've tried to emphasize, and I do think there's a number, I still go to the Penn State Job Fair each year.
Yep.
And, I think the multimedia, embracing multimedia, and being able to communicate is one of the most important things, whether it's in print, whether it's on the radio or on TV, just to be comfortable enough to do a quick stand-up if necessary.
Yep.
And to be able to have it captured on video. So, that's one of the things that we try to emphasize. Hey, we don't just have a separate photo department anymore.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everybody has to kind of do their part and still be able to make it work.
Why did you get into the business?
Well, I love sports and I love to communicate. And I got on my high school newspaper at West One Hilltop.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are you a Johnstown native?
Yes.
Where
Yeah, I
did
thought I
you
told
Where
you
did you
that.
grow? Where'd you
Last
live?
month.
Where did you live? Do you remember?
Emmett.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I
you're old. You
hope I
forget things.
remember.
You,
I came through the 70s, but I do remember.
Emmett Drive.
Emmett Drive. Yeah, right up from Sunny Hannah,
Yeah.
cross Goucher Street, and you were at the Dairy Queen. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. You're talking my hometown. So what? All right. So you worked for the high school newspaper. You were covering sports. That was enough to
Yeah,
get you into the
it got
business.
me into Penn State Altoona, and I got on the school paper. And I tell kids now, get involved, get an internship.
Oh, I tell people that all the
come
time.
out with clips. Don't just decide when you're a senior at Penn State that you want to decide to get into journalism.
Right.
You have to lay the foundation before that. Yeah.
Well, this is a good time because we have about 5 minutes left for me to get to where I wanted to get to anyway. I don't think I've ever met anybody that knows more about Penn State football than Neil Rudel, because seems like you've been writing about it since they didn't have face masks and they wore leather helmets. But okay, that's enough of the age joke. So give me your,
It's a slight exaggeration.
All right, but there's a lot of talk that this is the year.
Yeah.
Getting a little tough to hear this is the year because your head coach hasn't delivered.
No.
But what's Neil Rudel think? Is this the year?
Yeah.
Are they a legitimate national championship contender?
Well, I think you framed it well, Marty. The head coach has to deliver. They've put a lot of things in place. He's done an excellent job in many aspects of the program, but they have to play their best when their best is necessary, and they've not been able to deliver that against Ohio State. In the biggest moments, they've had a tendency to come up small in the biggest moments.
Yeah.
You can make a case that some of the games they've lost, Notre Dame with a chance to play for the national title. I think Penn State was better than Notre Dame that day, but Notre Dame played better when it absolutely had to.
And that's been, and you watch it all the time. You go to every game. That's been, I don't want to call it a mark of the Franklin era, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, he cannot, and he gets the blame. I mean, he takes he's the guy. He's the guy at the top. He does the recruiting, hires the coaches, designs the program, and gets it going in his way. And he hasn't been able to get that team over that hump. And we're talking about maybe in the last 2 minutes of a game. We're not talking about struggling through the year and losing games you should have won. We're talking about when it really matters.
Right.
And it's right in front of you, right?
Absolutely.
So you think it's going to be different this year?
Well, I mean, they have all the parts that they need. They have a veteran quarterback. They went out and poached Ohio State's defensive coordinator, paid him $3.2 million,
which I was really amazed at.
Right, and so there has been no limit to their resources. They're rebuilding their stadium. They have all kinds of experience back. The schedule is favorable. He has to prove that he can preside over a national championship program.
Yeah,
and that's what he hasn't done to this point.
And it's more than just winning the Big Ten. I mean, winning the Big Ten is obviously a step in the right direction because it gets you, although I'm not really sure that I understand how the playoffs are going to work this coming year either. But anyway, if James Franklin and his team, short of we lost 3/4 of the offense on the day of the game to some kind of mysterious stomach virus, and we're putting kids out there that haven't played, but does he have to win this year to keep his job?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think he's done enough that I don't see him being I mean, if they're 9-3 this year, that would be a huge disappointment, and he would be entering the following year on the hot seat. Whether he'd want to continue under that kind of pressure,
right.
He's under contract through like 31. There's not that many people that you could look at him and say, okay, we'll bring this guy in and he'll be an upgrade. He has recruited tremendously. He's a good communicator. The kids generally have not gotten in trouble, so they've represented the program well. So I wouldn't say that he would be on the verge of being fired. But as far as regaining, because I don't think he really has the public's trust, especially in the biggest moments against Ohio State.
I wanted you to really quickly separate yourself from journalists covering the team to fan, because the fan, and I mean, I realize you have to be objective, but still, there's a bit of that in you. The fans don't like what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, but again, we have to write no matter they win or lose. But to win the fans' trust. They need to beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten. I don't know that they necessarily have to get to win the national championship this year, but they need to make a great showing, because last year they got there, but they didn't do it
Right.
by getting the name brand teams.
10 seconds. They're going to do it this year.
I think they're going to go undefeated in the regular season. They're favored in every game except Ohio State.
That's what I was just going to ask you. To go undefeated, you got to beat Ohio State.
Right.
Haven't been able to do that, have they? Oh, I'm from Ohio. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I should put that in there. Hey, Neil, this was fabulous.
Thank you, Marty.
I'm glad there's still people like us that they let hang around and bring a little seasoning, right, to what we're doing. Thanks very much, bud.
Appreciate it.
Neil Rudel of the Altoona Mirror. Thanks so much for joining us on Behind the Headlines. We'll see you next time.